What the Raiders will need to do to go to SoFi Stadium and pick up the victory over the Chargers on Sunday. That plus more on Friday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, September 6, 2024.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast to get the latest edition of the show. And as always, if you're checking us out on YouTube, you know we appreciate that. The show grows each and every day, and that's because of your support, Raider Nation, and because of my man, Ari. Literally, without Ari, there is no Locked On Raider podcast YouTube page. Simple. It's just that simple. We'd have the podcast, we would have no YouTube page. So he does a really good job each and every day making sure we're on YouTube, we're looking good, and we're sounding good. We shout him out. We appreciate him. You can check him out on Twitter and hit him up at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And, of course, the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line is 707-654-4693. Coming up in segment number 3 of today's show, we will get your calls and texts. Plenty of feedback that we've had throughout the course of the week on all the different subjects that we talked about leading up to game number 1. We'll get as many calls and texts in as possible coming up segment number 3. Segment number 2, I'm going to give you keys to victory. It's what I do on Fridays, right? Offense, defense, special teams. What are the Raiders going to have to do? It's about the Raiders. It's not necessarily about the Chargers. What are they going to have to do to go to SoFi Stadium and do what they haven't done very often, which is pick up a W? That's coming up in segment number 2. Here's segment number 1, news and notes of the day, as I always do. And we'll jump right into it after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. I'll tell you more about them later on in the show, but it's nice to have football back, isn't it? We saw the first game of the season, the Ravens and the Chiefs. The Ravens went to the belly of the beast in Kansas City, Arrowhead, and, well, they came up literally an inch short. Came up an inch short of tying up the game at the end. It was pretty exciting. It was a really good first game of the season and really just got me fired up for not only tonight's game with the Packers and the Eagles that's on Peacock, but obviously the Raiders and the Chargers and the whole slate of games coming up this weekend. But the Chiefs are 1-0 after they got the victory. Baltimore drops to 0-1, and, of course, they're now preparing for the Raiders, who they'll get in week 2 at their place in Baltimore. But as I want to go over the news and notes of the day, off top, I want to go over the Raiders and the Chargers injury report for Thursday, and we'll get another injury report later on this afternoon, and then 90 minutes before kickoff, we'll find out who the actives and inactives are. But for the Raiders, on Thursday, limited tight end Brock Bowers dealing with the foot injury. He was limited on Wednesday and Thursday. Linebacker Tommy Eichenberg dealing with a knee injury, limited on Wednesday and Thursday. Cam Richardson, the cornerback, hamstring injury, limited on Wednesday and Thursday. And how about this new addition? Defensive end Malcolm Kuntz, dealing with the knee injury, not listed on Wednesday, but was listed on Thursday. Definitely one to pay attention to. Hopefully Malcolm is okay. Hopefully it's just a minor one. Again, we'll find out later on this afternoon. We'll actually talk to Antonio Pierce around 11:40 this morning Pacific time. So we'll ask him about Malcolm Kuntz and, if it's a injury that he's really concerned about, or if he should be good to go on Sunday, and hopefully we get a good answer from AP on that. But definitely paying attention to Malcolm Kuntz and his knee injury, as he wasn't listed on Wednesday, but was limited on Thursday. Long snapper Jacob Bobenmoyer, abdomen, full participant Wednesday, full on Thursday. The same with Colton Miller, dealing with the shoulder injury, full on Wednesday, full on Thursday. Spillane, same thing, full on Wednesday, full on Thursday. He was dealing with a back injury. And Tyree Wilson, foot injury, full on Wednesday, full on Thursday. Not a big fan of seeing Tyree Wilson on the injury report with anything foot-related, right? Knowing what he went through last year, but at least he was a full participant, so we'll see what he brings to the table. Also, not another guy that I want to see on the injury report, Jackson Powers Johnson, dealing with the illness. Wasn't listed on Wednesday, illness on Thursday, did not participate in practice, and I'm sure if you're JPJ, you're thinking, why me? Why me? Another injury, right? And I know he can't have that approach. He can't be that way. He's got to, just muscle through it or power through it. But, dealing with the concussion in training camp, didn't get to see any training camp, didn't get to see the field in training camp, didn't get to see the field in preseason. Finally getting out there, get to practice a little bit. Already know that you're probably going to miss the first game of the season because you're still in the ramp-up period. And then while you're ramping up, then you have an illness and you don't participate. So it's something to pay attention to, man. You don't want these guys to be banged up, especially this early in the season. And I know that this is not necessarily an injury. It's just an illness, but you hope that he's able to get out there and practice. And again, want to see him ramp up. So I don't expect to see him at all come Sunday. Expect to see Cody Whitehair in that spot. And, at some point you'll see JPJ out there. Right now, he's someone that's excited. He's something to get excited about when he gets out there. We just have no idea when he's going to get out there. He's another guy that we'll ask Antonio Pierce about later on this morning. For the Chargers, wide receiver DJ Chark dealing with a hip injury, didn't participate on Wednesday or Thursday, as David Drogemeyer, Locked On Chargers host, was on the crossover edition on Thursday, said, I don't think he's playing coming up on Sunday. So don't expect to see DJ Chark out there. Justin Herbert, the quarterback, was added to the injury list with the foot injury, obviously full participant both Wednesday and Thursday. So there's that. I don't remember him. They say he was full participant on Wednesday. I don't even remember him being listed on Wednesday, but apparently he was. But everything that I've been hearing sounds like he's good to go. He's feeling about as close to 100% as possible. Wide receiver Joshua Palmer, dealing with a knee injury, was not listed on Wednesday, full participant on Thursday, so something to pay attention there. And then Taheeb Steele with the hip injury. He's a cornerback, limited on Wednesday, limited on Thursday. We'll see if he's ready to go come Sunday. Again, we'll get another injury report later on this afternoon. I'll tweet it out at your boy Q254. And if you follow Raider Nation Radio 920 as well, at RNR 920 AM. And of course, Ari at Ari Produces, he'll tweet it out as well. So that's the latest and greatest when it comes to the injury report. We'll see who's good to go, and we'll get a little bit of clarification later on from Antonio Pierce. Now, I did want to take you inside the Raiders locker room, and I mentioned before that I'm not able to make it there because I'm doing my radio show at the time of the availability, but Vinny Bonsignore has done a really good job being able to send me some sound, and, he sent me sound from guys like JPJ and Nate Hobbs and other players that he's been able to. Devontae Adams, he sent me some sound from him. Jack Jones. But I wanted you to hear from Colton Miller, the big left tackle. Obviously, he didn't do too much in training camp, but he's back. He's good to go. And here's Colton Miller and Vinny Bonsignore in the Raiders locker room on Thursday.
I know you obviously missed some time and had to be frustrating doing that, but are you at a point in your career where you kind of sort of know intuitively how to kind of get ready and how to be ready?
Yeah, I think going over, missing a little bit of time like I did, I think it falls back to going back to the routine and getting back, and that's what I've been doing these past couple of weeks, and it's felt natural. I think just the biggest thing that we've that's been new is just of course just working with Cody, and we've been doing great. That's been when I come back, okay, I'd like to do this, and we've done it. We've had some the reps together. And it's feeling good. It's feeling real good.
How much conversations were you guys having throughout that process in order to kind of stay on the same page mentally and all that type of stuff?
That's all five of us. We're all on the same page. We all know what to do. It's just working side by side. We get the X's and O's and all that. It's just working together is the biggest thing. That's with any O-line, just knowing the guy you're working against and, footwork and working together. That's all part of the process.
Antonio has talked about wanting to hang his hat on the running game, and that starts with you guys. And I know that you just smiled right there because it feels like for offensive tackle, for linemen, you like to hear that. Like, put it behind us, put it on us, we're going to take care of it.
It starts with us. It starts with us. Always, we got to get it going. We got to let our guys eat, and we just not to make anything up, we just do what we do, and they'll do everything else.
How important is that to do that day one in Los Angeles, get off to that good start and you guys sort of be the charge behind it?
It'd be big, it's, of course it's a long season, and, new schemes, both sides. But, no, we're really excited for it.
There you go. You hear Colton Miller right there talking about, it'll be very important to establish the run immediately. That is going to be something that the Raiders are going to need to do. That offensive line is going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting. And I'll say this, man, I'm excited about JPJ when he finally gets out there, but I'm very happy that the Raiders have signed a guy like Cody Whitehair, a guy that is a veteran. He's been there, done that. He knows Luke Getsy's offense. Now, is he all on one page with the offensive line? No, not yet. But they need that. But at least he knows what he's doing. It's not like he's just learning the NFL game. He's been there for a while. So it'll be on Sunday. Colton Miller, Cody Whitehair, Andre James at the center position. You'll see Dalen Parham at the right guard spot and Thayer Munford at the right tackle spot. So I'm just glad that they have Cody Whitehair and that experience there, especially since he's coming over from Chicago and Luke Getsy's offense. So it will give them an opportunity to get that run game going on Sunday. That's something that they're going to need against the Chargers. Speaking of what they're going to need against the Chargers, keys to victory for the Raiders. That's coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before I get to that, though, I do want to tell you about LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and even quicker. So what do you need to do? Post your job for free right now at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. It's all one word. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. So excited to be heading into the weekend and thinking about a game. Not preseason, not training camp, not OTAs, not mandatory minicamp, not rookie camp, none of that. Talking about a game. Game 1 of a 17-game, 18-week season. And if they earn some postseason action, we'll be there for that as well. So always on Fridays heading into the game, unless the Raiders play on a Monday, then we'll do it on Monday's show. And if they play on Thursday, then we'll do it on Wednesday's show. But they don't play on Thursday, they play on Friday. So we do that on Thursday's show. We do Keys to Victory as well. But for the majority of the season on Fridays, you'll always get Keys to Victory for the Raiders. We do offense, defense, special teams, and even sometimes I'll throw in some coaching tips as well. I'll put my coach hat on. So here we go. Let's jump right into it. Offense, defense, special teams. I'm actually going to start with the defense. The Raiders are going to be led by their defense, so let's go ahead and start with the defense, at least in week 1. So the first and foremost thing that they have to do is they have to stop the run. We know that Jim Harbaugh, as we heard on the crossover edition, plus we know what Jim Harbaugh is all about. We know that they have Greg Roman as their offensive coordinator. They brought in J.K. Dobbins. They brought in Gus Edwards. I mean, they're going to be very, as a matter of fact, about running the rock, right? They've got a big fullback that's 300-plus pounds, right? Big, a defensive lineman or offensive lineman that they have playing that role. Whatever the case may be, you know they want to run the rock. Now, the thing about this is they want to run the rock, but they also have Justin Herbert as their quarterback. So I'm so interested in seeing what that dynamic is going to look like, what the balance is going to look like. And nobody really knows until we actually see it out there on the field. So the first thing is the Raiders have to try to make the Chargers one-dimensional by saying you're not going to run the rock. And we saw what they did in the preseason. I'm chalking that up to that was the preseason. It was very vanilla, and the Raiders are going to be able to stop the run. Right, looking at Christian Wilkins, looking at John Jenkins, looking at Adam Butler, Tyree Wilson, maybe Max Crosby, Malcolm Koonce, all those guys are going to be tasked, and the linebackers behind them, right? I mean, Lincoln Kennedy calls the big defensive tackles, calls them space eaters. They eat up the space, and guys like Spillane, Diablo, right? If Gaynor or Masterson get in there, then they have an opportunity to go up and make the play and stop the run as well. The Raiders are going to have to be committed to stopping the run first and foremost. They can't just fall in love with pinning their ears back and getting after the quarterback. They have to know they got to stop the run. And with that being said, this might be a game because the interior of the Chargers offensive line is a little soft. This might be a game, if I'm Patrick Graham, that I get a little freaky and put Tyree Wilson on the inside. I might put him every once in a while in that NASCAR package that we know AP knows very well from his time with the Giants. We've talked about that NASCAR package before. I might go ahead and throw Tyree Wilson in there next to, Christian Wilkins a couple times, right? Just to throw them off and be that guy. Again, I believe he has the opportunity. You saw him do it at the end of last season, and the interior of the Chargers offensive line is weaker. We know about Slater. We know about Joe Alt, right? We know that those two tackles are going to be solid, but the interior is a little suspect. So when it comes to stopping the run, even when it comes to getting after the quarterback, I might every once in a while. I'm not saying consistently because John Jenkins and Adam Butler, they're a couple hell of a players too, right? So I don't want to take anything away from them. But I might sprinkle in some Tyree Wilson in there as well as a fresh rotation and also just that NASCAR package. So that's first and foremost. Raiders defense has to stop the run. And of course, you've got to be able to get to the quarterback. If you can turn them into one-dimensional, or if you can, get them to start passing the ball, a little early on downs, then you got to take advantage of that. Max Crosby's got to be able to pin his ears back. Malcolm Kuntz, I think he's going to have so many one-on-one opportunities. He's got to thrive. Really, I mean, I'd love to see like 2 to 3 sacks by the Raiders defense, but they've got to, again, attack the interior, right? So whatever Patrick Graham's scheme that he's going to, dial up, any kind of stunts or any kind of, moves that he plans on making, but they all got to come from the inside. I think that's how the Raiders defensive line is going to eat, in the interior of that Chargers offensive line. Again, the bookends, they're solid, but that interior, those are the suspect ones, and you're only as good as your weakest link. The weakest link is right there in the middle of that Chargers offensive line. And finally, for the defense, if they want to have a solid game, don't give up the big play, right? Whatever the Chargers do, whatever the Chargers score, whenever they get up and down the field, make them earn it. Don't give up the big play. Don't have any busted plays or miscommunication plays. All of a sudden you look up and a guy's running for 45 yards, like in Minnesota, right? When the Raiders gave up bad angle. I know it was a backup safety that had a bad angle, but you know what I'm saying? That was a big run play, 40-plus yards. Boom, scored a touchdown. Or a couple of the deep shots that you saw Minnesota take, or some of the plays that you saw the Dallas Cowboys take. You can't give up those big plays. You got to make these teams earn it, because the more snaps that they take, the longer it takes them to get up and down the field, the more chance at creating a turnover you have, right? The more times that Justin Herbert puts the ball in the air, a better chance at Nate Hobbs, Jacorian Bennett, Jack Jones, Trayvon Merrick, Marcus Epps, right? Robert Spillane, more chance that they have an opportunity to make a play, or more chance that Max Crosby has to get back there and get a sack, Malcolm Kuntz get a strip sack, whatever the case may be. Whenever Justin Herbert is dropping back, you have an opportunity to make a play, not because he's a bad quarterback, but it's just this good chance that you can make a play. And he's got a bad wheel. And I know they're saying he's 100%, but he's still got a bad wheel. So test him. See how good that wheel is. See how hesitant he is to take off and run. We know what he can do. We've seen it, right? We've seen him do it multiple times a year, and he's credited for being an elite quarterback. He hasn't done anything, as far as I'm concerned, to show that he's an elite quarterback. He doesn't have the resume. We know he's got the arm talent. We know this. But he doesn't have the resume to say he's in that elite category or even that top 10 category. He has no playoff victories under his belt. So whatever the Chargers get on Sunday, the Raiders defense has to make them earn it. Don't just give up the easy score, the easy play. You can't do that. Offensively, you got to establish the run, right? The big uglies up front, they got to do their job. They've got to be able to run block. That's what they want to do. Zamir White, Alexander Mattison, I would love to see about 25 carries. I really would. That's only going to help Gardner Minshew. That's only going to help the rest of the guys on the field, like the Devontaes, like the Jacobys, like the Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, like all these guys, Trey Tucker. That's going to allow them to do the play-action pass if they can get the run game going. If you can establish the run game, the play-action pass is going to be there. And that's how the Raiders in this offense is going to thrive. That's how Gardner Minshew is going to play well, if he has an opportunity to use the play-action pass and it's effective. How many times have we seen the Raiders in the past try to go play-action pass with no run game? And no one's like, everyone's like, I ain't worried about that. Ain't worried about that. Even Jimmy G, remember last year, tried to do some play action pass multiple times, and teams like, yeah, not falling for that. You have no run game. You can't run the rock. Not worried about that, right? And so they would just continue to get right upfield and get after the quarterback. If they have a strong run game, if they can establish it early, like I believe that they're going to try to do, then all of a sudden that play action opens up. And that's when a guy like Trey Tucker can get behind the defense. That's when a guy like Jacoby can get open in the middle of the field. That's when you can get tricky and get creative with Brock Bowers, right? Devontae can continue to be Devontae. So that's going to be very important. The run is going to open up everything else. And it's funny. It's almost like the Spider-Man meme where one's Spider-Man and one's Venom, and they look very similar. I think you're going to see two teams on Sunday that look very similar. They're both going to want to establish the run. They both want to use play-action pass. They're going to want to get the ball to their playmakers. Only difference is the Raiders have more playmakers than the Chargers do. It's just that simple. And Gardner Minshew is going to have to take advantage of that. And Luke Getsy is going to have to dial up a good game. And what he does in the first quarter is going to have to set up the fourth quarter, right? It's just that simple. And the most important thing that the Raiders can do offensively, obviously not turn the ball over. right? They got to protect the ball. So I would say that's the most important thing is always protect the ball. But for this offense to go, I've said this 1,000 times. I'll say it 1,000 more. They've got to stay on schedule. They can't have 1st and 15. They can't have false starts. They can't have delay of games. They can't have holdings for no reason, right? I mean, how many times have we seen the Raiders get a holding penalty on a play that's not even, or on a block that's not even close to where the play goes, right? They've got to be disciplined. One of the things that AP did a really good job with as an interim head coach last year was make sure that the team played pretty penalty-free. When they went into the belly of the beast, which was Arrowhead Stadium on Christmas and won, you know what the best stat was? The 0 in the penalty column. They had 0 penalties. That's what they need to do. And I don't expect them to go every game and have 0 penalties, especially the illegal formation. If you saw Thursday Night Football, you see how many times the officials called illegal formation on the Ravens. They didn't call it on the Chiefs, but they called it on the Ravens a bunch of times, right? Like 4 or 5 times early in the game. So they're going to have to be careful with that. There's a few penalties that the officials are paying more attention to this year. I'm not going to ever come on here and complain about the officials because they're not going to be the reasons why the Raiders lose the game if they lose. So that's not going to be what I choose to do. But, they got to be smart about it. They've got to be disciplined. You could play physical. You could put the pain on them. You can, really, put your will on them. But you've got to play smart. You can't have those stupid, personal fouls like we saw Roquan Smith on Thursday against the Chiefs do that multiple times. You have the Chiefs in 3rd and long, and then you get them with a personal foul, and it's a first down plus 15 yards. You can't do that. Well, the Raiders aren't going to be good enough to be able to do that either. So they've got to be smart. Don't get behind the chains. Don't have stupid penalties, right? They've got to stay on schedule. That's one of the biggest keys to the Raiders' offense, not only Sunday, but throughout the course of the season. You've got to stay on schedule. They're not a team that's built to just overcome 1st and 20, 2nd and 15, 3rd and 11, right? They've got to be in 3rd and reasonable. That's what this West Coast offense is designed to do. Finally, special teams. I think the special teams is going to be important. We know, the kickoff try, it's a little bit different. I don't know how long they're going to try to be creative with this kickoff. If they even do, they might just kick it and concede 30-yard line. Say, you know what? Just take it at the 30. Right. But we know what AJ Cole can do when he punts, he flips the field. So he just has to consistently be him and do what he does. And the coverage unit has to continue to be really good getting down the field. The kickoff, Daniel Carlson continue to do what you do. And then, of course, field goals, extra points. I'm hoping to see a lot more extra points than field goals. That's the goal. But the biggest thing I want to look at special teams wise, punt return, kick return. I would love to see, and anyone who's been listening to the show for a while knows I would love to see a touchdown. I'd love to see a return, take one to the house. That's not something that's guaranteed every week, but I would like to see them set up in good field position, right? I mean, if you get past the 30, if you get to the 35, almost the 40, then, hey, that's a plus. That's a really good starting point. Right? If the Raiders could use a guy like Tyreek McAllister, they could use a guy like Trey Tucker, they could use a guy like DJ Turner to put themselves in position, whether it's punt return, kick return, or both. That's a plus. I think that they have the weapons to do it. I feel like they have the right blockers to do it. They've just got to go out there and execute correctly. So if they can do that, I think that that'll give the Raiders offense a good shot in the arm, give them a short field to work with. And again, when you're an offense that you're not really going to be, this high-flying machine, sometimes you need everything you can get, whether that's a turnover in a short field or a punt return in a short field, kick return in a short field. Any opportunity you get to get a short field is a plus. So that, when I'm looking at the special teams, that's what I'm going to be staring at. That's what I'll be paying attention to and waiting for come Sunday when the Raiders take on the Chargers at SoFi Stadium. So that's what I got for you for segment number 2. Those are my keys, looking at the defense, looking at the offense, and, of course, looking at the special teams. And hopefully AP gets the first victory of the season as he's in L.A. And by the way, Raiders, go and get a victory at SoFi, right? I've only had, I think they're 1-4 or 1-5 at SoFi. I know David said 1-6 on Thursday's show, but I believe it's only 1-4, 1-5. I know Jason Horowitz, the voice of the Silver and Black, he said he's never called a victory for the Raiders at SoFi Stadium. So it'd be nice to pick up a victory, right? Jason Horowitz, no pressure. Just go get a victory for the Silver and Black at SoFi Stadium. The fans will be there. Need the team to show up. That's what I got for you. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts are coming up next. 707-654-4693. This is the Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is PrizePicks. And you might be wondering right now, Q, what is PrizePicks? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, and unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. It's just that simple. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll in just like that. Caleb Williams, one Caleb Williams passing yard will get you 1 win on PrizePicks every week in September. He going to get that. Only 1 yard is going to get you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free dubs. Don't miss a deal on PrizePicks because it's gone when September ends. And right now, you can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in most states, including Cali, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with the injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, don't worry. PrizePicks keeps your picks still alive. They keep them alive all the time, so that's a plus as well. What do you have to do? Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL, and you'll get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's promo code LOCKEDONNFL. It's lowercase on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts as we close out the week. 707-654-4693. Let's start out with a call from my brother, P.E. in North Carolina. Haven't heard from him in a minute. He's calling because, well, he questions the Raiders defense and gives you the reason why they may not live up to the hype that we've talked about all summer long.
Yo, what up, Tupac? What up, Raider Nation? P.E. from North Carolina. Yo, Q, I got some reservations about the season, man. I don't know. I'm hearing everybody talk about the defense, Q, but I'm not sold on the defense as of yet. And here's why. Number one, the man in charge of the defense, Patrick Graham. Q, you and I talked about Patrick Graham as soon as he got hired, and we knew he had some warts that came along with him. Well, I think he still has those warts, Q. I think last year, at the end of last year, after Pierce took over, the numbers seem to look pretty good, but I believe that offenses were playing us different. I think the offenses knew that I think the other teams knew that we really couldn't score on when we had the ball. So knowing that, I think most teams came in with a conservative game plan, saying let's just run and we'll force them to make a mistake. And we'll end up beating them at the end of the game. I think that's why our numbers look good under Patrick Graham. I'm not going to say Patrick Graham did a masterful job, but you can see it in the Minnesota and the Pittsburgh game. Those guys were clearly playing just to win by a field goal because they knew that we couldn't score. And you know, we had a rookie quarterback. So I think that's why our defensive numbers look good at the end of last year. Number 2, Q, our personnel. Our personnel, you know, you want to talk about D-line, we got Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins. Okay, we're above average defensive line. Should be, hopefully. But you go back to the linebackers, who we got? Robert Spillane, Devon Diablo, in my opinion, is a bust. He hasn't lived up to what he was supposed to do since he's been there. And we don't have any known factors behind either one of those guys. You go out the corner, you got Jack Jones. And he's okay. He's pretty good. But outside of Jack Jones, who are we depending on? Nate Hobbs? Nate Hobbs is inconsistent at best, and he's injured. Who else we got? Jacorian Bennett? I mean, everybody said Jacorian Bennett was great last year coming out of camp. So is that really who we're relying on? At safety, Marcus Epps and Trayvon Murray, they're okay. They're not great. But they might be, they're average to below average in my opinion. So, I mean, what really do we have on defense? Not a good coordinator. Not good talent linebacker and at quarter. So, that's one of the reasons why I'm not sold on this season as of yet, Q. Peace out, Raider Nation.
P.E., thanks so much for the call. I appreciate you. And I don't know, man. I think that ever since Patrick Graham has been there, I think that he's definitely developed. From year 1 to year 2, there was a time when the season started last season, I thought he was going to be the scapegoat and get fired, especially after they moved him upstairs into the booth. I was like, oh, man, that's the first step. Now they're going to scapegoat him and say he's the reason why the Raiders are no good. Ended up being his unit was the best unit. I'm not really sold on the concept of other offenses playing the Raiders differently because they can't score. I don't know. I mean, maybe we saw 2 different games. I respect your opinion like no other. But I don't feel like that was the case, right? I feel like if that's the case, if teams thought that the Raiders couldn't score, they go in there, score a bunch of points, and just say, hey, these dudes ain't going to be able to catch up, so we ain't going to be able to do that. I understand not trying to get too high on the defense because, well, you've been, told one thing one year, you've been told another thing, and it's going to be different, this, that, and the third, and this is different. For us to go into a season and say, hey, man, the defense is going to lead this team, it does sound kind of weird. It almost sounds unbelievable because it's been so long, but here we are, right? And so I do think that, give us some time. I don't blame you for waiting to see it with your own eyes as opposed to, just hearing me talk about it or hear someone else talk about it. And look, they might not. Maybe 4 or 5 weeks will go by and be like, yeah, Q, that defense is only average. It's not as good as we all thought it was going to be. And then, maybe you'll be absolutely right. I think this defense is really going to be what leads this team. I think you're going to be very happy with what you see. And they've got some dudes on that defense. So they might not be all pro football focused top 10 guys, like my guys on ESPN Las Vegas were talking about. And we brought it to the table here on the podcast, but I think they're all guys that can get it done. There's no doubt. Plus they got a lot of guys that are in contract years. And you know what it is when guys are in contract years. Guys always play a little bit harder, always go a little bit faster, always make a few more plays when they're in contract years. But PE, it's always great to hear from you, my man. You got to hurry up and come back to Vegas, man. We got to hang out, but definitely appreciate the call and have fun on Sunday watching the game. Up next, got a text from Mississippi Pork Lover. First of all, I love the name. He said, Q, it's Mississippi Pork Lover. You know who I think the Raiders should trade for? Joe Milton, the New England Patriots third-string quarterback. He will give I will start a run for his money. He will give our starters a run for his money. What do you think? Check him out, Joe Milton. Yeah. So that text is a little messed up, but I understand what he's trying to say. He's saying trade for Joe Milton with the Patriots. Mississippi Pork Lover, I love the name. I do. I do not believe Joe Milton's the answer. I do not believe he's the answer. He had one good game in the preseason for the Patriots, and that was really it. He's not very accurate of a passer. Is he an athlete? Sure. Can he run really well? Sure. Right? Is he a big, tall, strong dude with a strong arm? Yeah. But the accuracy is just not there, man. It really isn't. And I don't think that, we need to look at other rosters and say, oh, man, that guy who's the third string on this team is who the Raiders need to go after. The Raiders need to go out and get their own dude, a real dude, a bona fide, that's going to be the guy. I don't think Joe Milton's going to be the answer. I get it, though. I know a lot of people were pretty high on Joe Milton after the first preseason game, but there's a reason why he's a third-string quarterback there in New England. But appreciate the text, and like I said, love the name, Mississippi Pork Lover. Hope to hear from you again. Up next, got a call from Old Town Dave. He's calling to talk about the upcoming season, the quarterback position, and he also hit you with the Ice Cube sign-off. Here he is, Old Town Dave.
Hey, Q, what's up? What's up, Raider Nation? It's your boy, Old Town Dave here, just calling to check in and say hello to the family. I just wanted to spread some positivity and excitement about the season coming up. The season starting tonight, placing this call on Thursday afternoon, so really looking forward to it. I think our defense is going to be really good this year. I'm not overly worried about Gardner being our quarterback. I'm happy that he's getting the start over Aiden. I think Aiden still has more to show, and I think like you've said a number of times, Q, I think both quarterbacks will end up playing this year at some point in time. So I'm excited to start the season, and just wanted to check in and say hello. It's been a minute since I called, and I'd like to end the call with what Lauren was trying to start at the stadium there. Every time the Raiders get a first down or whatever, we're going to do the Ice Cube, yay, yay. So that's how I end this call. So you guys be good up there. Stay up. And one love. Yay, yay.
Dave, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you, my man. And, yeah, I'm very excited about the defense. I really am. This is one of these years, and I can't remember exactly what year it is. I'm sorry that I don't remember the year. But there was a year when the Raiders' offense was so bad so bad. They were still in Oakland at the time, and I can't remember who the quarterback was, but I could tell you who was on the defense. Raiders had Nnamdi on the defense. Kirk Morrison was there. Thomas Howard was there, right? It was early 2000s, maybe 2006. Maybe that's about right. Anyway, they were really bad offensively. Like, they couldn't do anything. And matter of fact, I remember the game where Kirk Morrison intercepted. They were playing the Browns at the Coliseum, and I was sitting in the, I want to say like the third deck, down by the not the black hole end zone, but the other one, right? So under the scoreboard. So Kirk Morrison comes up with an interception on the dirt part of the infield at the Coliseum and returns it to like the 5-yard line. The 5-yard line. Did a great job. He laid out. It's almost like he was a shortstop or whatever. Just laid out, got the ball, intercepted it, got back up, ran all the way to the 5-yard line. The Raiders fell for a field goal. Right? And that was like the story of their season, was they just couldn't do anything defensively. So for me, I was always excited when the offense was out there because I thought either Kirk or T. Howard were going to make plays and get interceptions and take it to the house, and rest in peace to Thomas Howard. But I always thought that was how they were going to score because they couldn't score offensively. I don't think it's going to be that this year. I definitely believe the Raiders are going to be able to contribute offensively. I don't think they're going to be that bad at all, but I think their defense is going to be so good that they're going to have opportunities to make plays. I'm excited about seeing the defense out there on the field. A little nervous about the offense because I just don't know what it's going to look like just yet. But the defense, I'm really fired up about. So hopefully I'm right and my guy P.E. in North Carolina is wrong. So thanks for the call, and that's a good yay at the end. Maybe we'll start saying that when the Raiders come up with a big play, like a turnover or something. A yay interception or a strip sack. A yay. Okay, you get it. That's enough ice cubes, right? But thanks for the call. I appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Southwest Florida Raider. Says, Q, a lot of talk this offseason about offense, defense, the draft, potential breakout players, who's the starting quarterback, etc. But very little talk about expectations when it comes to AP. I, for one, was and still is hesitant about crowning him the new John Madden, as some of the nation have referred to him as, or jumping on the AP train. Yes, he's changed the culture. Yes, he can relate to players, and they love him. All that is great if it results in wins. So as you mentioned, the season's broken into quarters. If the Raiders start 1-3 or heaven forbid 0-4, I wonder if the flavor for AP will sour among the nation. Is his job safe this season regardless? If it's 1-3 or 0-4, I agree with your feeling that Devontae will probably want out. That's just my 2 cents. Southwest Florida Raider. That's a nice text from him. And yeah, look, I mean, we don't know what it's going to look like yet, right? We know what AP did last season. He went 5-4 down the stretch. He earned the job. I said, and the only John Madden comparisons I've said is that he's a linebacker coach. Madden was a linebacker coach, right? They hired within. Madden got the job. Obviously, we all know what happened after that. So we don't know what AP is going to do. AP's got to go out there and win. It's all about wins. It's not about good stories anymore. It's not about changing the culture. It's not about being from Compton, driving a lowrider, wearing Air Force Ones and, doing things your way. It's not about that on the field. Now, it's about that for AP and everything else. Like, that's great. But on the field, it's about wins. It's simple as that. I do believe his job is safe this year. Obviously, you don't want to get out to a 1-3 start or 0-4 start like you mentioned, but I do think that AP is safe for this year. I think that everyone in the organization realizes they still don't have the right quarterback in place to do exactly what they want to do, but that's just my gut feeling. That's not something that someone's told me. So I'll hold my judgment to see what it looks like. Now, it could look terrible, right? I mean, we've seen some coaches come in that we felt pretty good about, and all of a sudden they were awful and they were out of there. Like, hey, yeah, you're one and done, right? And that happens. Hopefully that's not the case. I like AP. I thought he was the right guy for the job when he was about 3 weeks into him being the interim coach. I never say that. I always say no to the interim, but there was something that just felt right. I go with my gut feeling on this and just felt right. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I do think he is the right guy for the job, but as I was telling my guy Matt George from Sacramento when I was on with him on Sunday, on TV in Sacramento, I was like, if AP doesn't do well and they don't win, there's going to be a lot of folks in Raider Nation going to say, you know what, could have had Jim Harbaugh, and be angry about that. And that's the last conversation that I want to have. That's the last conversation AP wants to have. Nobody wants to have that conversation. So hopefully everything goes right. But the good thing is games haven't even started yet. The game will start on Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific time kickoff at SoFi Stadium, Raiders and the Chargers. So we'll see. We absolutely will see. But thanks so much for that text. I do appreciate you. That's really all the time I got for on today's show. And that's all the time we got for the week. Right. right? So it's a done deal. It's in the bag. We've prepped. We're ready. We know what to look for. We know what we're going to be looking at when it comes to the Chargers. So I don't think there's really too much more that we can do except for watch the game, come back on Monday and talk about the results. And hopefully I'm handing out game balls, right? I always talk about on Mondays, we're going to recap the game, go deep diving into it. Hopefully I'm handing out game balls. Hopefully I'm talking about AP getting his first career win as the full-time head coach of the Silver and Black. We'll find out when the game takes place coming up on Sunday. So Raider Nation, have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the game. Hopefully everyone's happy when the game is over. And we're talking about a victory on Monday, but until the game is in the books, we won't know. So until Monday, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.